These are the stories of how history's most important music scenes influence our culture and change the way we live. Under the Influence. In the beginning, there was New York City. As poet Walt Whitman once said, there's no place like it, no place with an atom of its glory, pride, and exultancy. It lays its hand upon a man's bowels. He grows drunk with ecstasy. He grows young and full of glory. He feels that he can never die. Forever known as the breeding ground for artists, musicians, and avant-garde, New York has been the birthplace of numerous local scenes that went on to capture global audiences and spawn entire genres. You see, the city that never sleeps also never stops changing. New York City, the 1970s, was a city in peril. New Yorkers witnessed a sharp rise in crime, social disorder, as the city crept closer to bankruptcy. The subways were considered unsafe. Pimps, prostitutes, and petty criminals owned Manhattan streets. White flight was at its peak. The common belief was that the ecstatic glory of Walt Whitman's New York had begun to fade, and the world's greatest city was experiencing an inevitable decline. But New York's teeming homegrown working class never left. And never shut up.
This next band is the Crucial Band from New York, Agnostic Front.
I used to go watch a band. I say, I could do that. I could do it better. I could do it louder, faster. And that's how I evolved into playing the way I play. I don't want to sound gauche or anything like that, but I was practically the only punk rocker from New York City, not from Queens or Brooklyn or whatever, you know, because a lot of people were bridging tunnel. I kind of like left the old punk rockers in the past, but they didn't want to make the jump, you know what I mean? We would shave our heads, getting tattoos. We were doing this all in my kitchen. My mother, my grandmother would come in with bowls of spaghetti and macaroni, feed all my friends, and everybody would stay in my house, all the bands would stay there. We were the first national skinhead band, fully tattooed, to run around the country. We were like rebels, really. We just wanted to go out and have a little fun. I mean, we get stopped thinking we're a cult, thinking we were anarchists. They didn't know what to think of us. We're from New York, we don't give a shit, you know?
New York hardcore has always been a family affair. In the heyday of Agnostic Front, singer Roger Miret used to bring his 12-year-old little brother Freddie on stage and give him the microphone. This gave birth to another great New York hardcore band, Madball. Freddie was the most hardcore kid of all time, and a great singer. Meanwhile, DC bands like Bad Brains and Minor Threat brought political consciousness and positive lyrics to Lower East Side venues like A7 and CBGB's, laying the foundation of New York's own brand of hardcore.
If you want to know who the godfathers are of New York hardcore, it's the Bad Brains, hands down. Anybody who tries to tell you any different don't know what they're talking about, because I was there.
Look at that thing! We got that attitude!
Coming up from DC in 1980 and 79, the Bad Brains changed my life. That was it. It was always about the PMA, man. It's the mindset, positive mental attitude. And that's what the Bad Brains taught. You know, a lot of people got the wrong message when they would come to the shows and see like this controlled violence. It was kind of like this like tribal dance that everybody was part of, and it was a vibe and it was a scene. Punk rock, all they ever did was complain about shit. You know, fuck the motherfucker, you know, no solutions. Hardcore was about finding solutions to those problems. New York was just a rough fucking place to live in the 70s and 80s. I went through 7 years of hell in a foster home, being abused, the worst shit you could ever imagine. I was fucked up on drugs, and we were fucking living in Alphabet City in burnt out buildings. Basically, was out on the streets for a number of years. I got incarcerated. You know, jails and prisons and fucking people dying all around me, and I just wanted a way out. What I did was take what I learned from Bad Brains, you know, spirituality, not religion, and brought all that in and filtered it back out through the music. We kind of like were the fishermen to pull those kind of souls in that were just fucking damaged. You didn't have to get high and get fucked up to be part of that. I don't call myself straight edge, but I am. Being vegetarian and then going to the Krishna temple and reading books on philosophy, it's not corny to try to dig into your mind and your soul and find out what the fuck we're doing in this material world. That's not corny shit. Hardcore is about a spirit, man. These people go on to do other amazing things because they got the PMA, they have the mindset. But look at Ditto. Look at these guys that have created new avenues of expression and have new careers in other areas that came out of the hardcore movement, you know?
That mentality was right. I know it was, the old hardcore mentality. For me, it was correct. We're here an edit of a movie called Man Down with Shia LaBeouf and Gary Oldman, Kate Mara, Jai Courtney, and Clifton Collins. This is the 6th movie in 8 years, pretty fast, Ramones style. I grew up in Astoria, Queens. My father was a typewriter mechanic. My father's making me take the token booth clerk test. I'm like, damn, really? Fucking token booth, man, that's gonna suck, you know? Me and my friends rehearsing in the Ravenswood projects, but you didn't dream that you would ever be successful. What, do you need a record company? Give me a break. What I think was so exciting for me, you were trying really hard to do something, and that's it, you know? And I don't know where it was going to lead me, but I just want to do something. So part of me doesn't let go of that, you know? It's something you carry with you. When I was making my first movie, it was a learning process. Well, it was a book, you know? Wrote it as a book, and then I was talking with Robert Downey. We know each other from just roaming around New York, you know? And he was like, let's make a movie. I was like, okay, let's go make a movie. So we kind of ended up doing it, so it's very weird. So with movies, it was very much like hardcore. Ties in its own weird way.
Ditto and I were good friends. We did a lot of photos together and we hung out a lot together. Ditto was very photogenic. I used to be involved in the New York hardcore scene and photographed a lot of bands through the years. Bands would see me with the camera in hand and ask me if they could have pictures, and I said yes. Sick of It All, they're definitely the funnest band to hang out with. Murphy's Law, they were always known for beer and fun. Agnostic Front, good friends of mine. Here's a picture of Vinny Stigma doing a split, not even phasing him. This cover was great because there were so many people in it. Gorilla Biscuits are playing. There's a singer from Warzone, Ray B's right there. Ray Cappo, singer of Youth of Today right there. It's not like I was selling these pictures for anything. Just give them to my friends so their records could come out. Now they're iconic images. Got hit by a cab after shooting a show and broke my femur bone. All these bands associated with New York hardcore put together some benefit shows for me, played for free to help me out because I had no insurance. That is family.
I grew up in Rockaway Beach, which is on the outskirts of Queens. We were coming from like mostly working class families. We weren't street kids. I wasn't tough. I wasn't like gonna hang out on the Lower East Side taking drugs at night. Youth Today provided some sort of way to be about the music and about the message, and I related to that.
Taking inspiration from spiritually motivated New York hardcore bands like the Cro-Mags, a suburban kid from Connecticut named Ray Cappo breathed new life into the scene. And again, redefined the boundaries of the still burgeoning movement for an entire generation of music fans. Take me. I met the Youth of Today cats after a Gilman Street show at Berkeley, California. We went up the street to the donut shop that all the punks hung out at, and I was like, Ray, you guys want a donut? It's on me. And Ray said, nah, man, I don't consume donuts. I'm vegan. And I said, no, they're donuts. They're vegetarian. I'm not vegetarian, I'm vegan. And I never heard that word before. New York hardcore kids were on some next level shit.
Youth of Today did a video for a song called No More, which basically sold everybody on vegetarianism. They were like probably the most controversial and inspiring band for so many people. We are at Make Restaurant in Santa Monica, California. We just got back from the Santa Monica Farmers Market and I picked up some chickweed and I'm cutting it into nice little pieces so we can use it for our garnishes and stuff. Becoming vegetarian and like being straight edge back then, and it was more about just kind of not being a part of everybody else. It was almost like a big, fuck you. Like, hey, we're a responsible bunch of young adults, and at a Sunday matinee, I was outside with a bunch of my friends, and then there was like a crew of like the straight edge guys, and I heard one of them say that they were a vegetarian, and that kind of like set it off. I'm the culinary director for the company, so a lot of the recipes are mine. Without hardcore and punk, I definitely wouldn't be doing this. It was just like a thing that was just a part of hardcore. We all had similar interests, and that's kind of why we became a band. Everybody in Texas is Reason was a very strict vegetarian or vegan. It wasn't about just fast beats and mosh parts. Hardcore made it okay to be a vegetarian.
There was something sporty about hardcore too, because it's dancing, it's violent, like football, and risky, like skateboarding. So I think that's where the shorts and the athletic clothing also connects. For me to dress in this kind of suburban way, with a varsity jacket on, is subversive. Me being in Queens, we don't have a football team. We don't dress like that at all, just no one does.
And that's what I think changed it and popularized it in a way, because I think people in the suburbs were able to go like, I can relate to that.
Youth Today provided a roadmap to what the influences were. That was easier for people to digest and to assimilate around the world.
This is a record that completely changed my life. And I found a CD version of this when I was in high school, 2nd grade, and I listened to it and boom, I was so inspired by it.
아마 이제 뭔가 하드코어가 이제 80년대 이 당시에 이제 한국에서는 이제 독재 아마 그런 정권이었어가지고, 그리고 그때는 좀 음악을 접하기가 쉽지가 않다 보니까 어쨌든 근데 인터넷의 힘이 컸지. 그래서 이제 2000년 초반 또 이제 그때 마이스페이스 때문에라도, 그래서 지금은 굳이 저희가 공연을 기획을 하지 않더라도 주말만 되면 되게 많은 하드코어나 펑크 공연이 이제.
Hardcore straight edge culture had moved beyond the inner circle. Clearly, there was something more to this movement than shaved heads and front flips off the stage.
We're going to a venue, we're throwing a free show, hardcore show, 4 hardcore bands. It's a very underground venue. I really like it because it's very intimate, small. There are about 50 people, it's completely packed, and the show is always crazy here. So that's why we picked this venue. It's gonna be crazy. 굉장히 많아요. 대한민국에도 정말 멋진 하드코어 밴드들이 많아서 그 사람들이랑 이렇게 같이 함께 할 수 있다는 건 저희한테 영광인 것 같습니다. 포기하지 않기를 다들. Especially in Korean, in Eastern culture in general, there's this pressure from society that conformity drives everything. Conformity solves a lot of problems. It was true. So Korea got split between North and South. So after that, Korea was the poorest country in the world. Korea grew a lot from basically nothing. But now we have all this prosperity in Korea. We're still trying to hold on to this idea of conformity, and that's creating a lot of problems between old ideology and new ideologies. If you deviate from the established path, then you're basically doomed. And there's pressures from the society. And then there's system overload. We're basically #1 suicide rate. I mean, they're mostly high school students as well, because they just couldn't keep up with the pressure. Hardcore really taught me to think and make me ask why. Straight edge is basically a promise to yourself that you're gonna live a better life. It's all about the open minds and clear hearts. It is directly related to the concept of PMA, positive mental attitude. That the society is changing. We're more worried about our individualism, like our individual lives. How can we make our lives better? this hardcore music enables a lot of young people, young newcomers to follow their dream. So it's a big change in Korean society. Things are moving into the right direction.
Yo, we've known the Geeks from South Korea forever. They have like their own scene in Korea. It's insane, you know? We just played South Korea a couple months ago and it was gnarly. Kids were there, excited, like it was fully energy-based, you know? Like the second the music starts and everyone's like this, it's like they just feed off the energy of it. And it's like almost like it breaks the language barrier in a sense just through the vibe of the music. Like watching the Geeks, I was like, yeah, this feels like the era of hardcore that I grew up in. Gorilla Biscuits long sleeves and like cargo shorts. It was tight. Grew up in California. There was like all the bands that were like entry-level hardcore bands, like Minor Threat, Circle Jerks, Black Flag, Bad Brains, Cro-Mags, like all those type of bands. So it'd be like you'd grab like a record, you'd be like, oh, I fucking love this record, and then you would look at all the bands that they thanked in the record, and you're like, oh, I want to hear that, that name sounds cool, and if the Bad Brains said they're cool, then they must be cool, you know what I mean? The chase of it's almost fun in itself, you know what I mean? Instead of it just being packaged and hand to you, you know?
Yeah, when I was younger, straight edge was like a part of my life for sure.
Me too.
Yeah. That's how I got into actually playing in bands. I played football, and one of my teammates was like, we listened to the same kind of music. He's like, yo, we should just start a band. And so we did. Bands like Die Hard Youth were playing shows in my hometown, and they were like a hardcore band that was heavily influenced by like the positive youth and like youth crew movement, New York bands and shit. They're the ones that kind of sunned us and put us onto that stuff and the DIY kind of ethic and showed us how to maneuver through that.
We're playing at Palisades tonight in Brooklyn, like right under the train or whatever. Every little DIY venue you could think of in Brooklyn, we probably played it.
I know it's snowing outside, I know the weather's fucking bullshit, but it's warm as fucking here. Let's have a good fucking time tonight. Everybody on this stage, off this fucking stage, let's go.
The only person who's gonna work as hard for yourself is yourself. Punk and hardcore has for sure taught me that. You can create your own lane and do things the way you want. Being yourself will get you further than trying to do what someone else is telling you to do. I didn't go to college, I went to South Korea, you know what I
mean? There we go, New York! Fuck yeah, give it up for Palisades one time.
I sound my barbaric yawp over the roofs of the world. I think he's just like, this is bullshit. My name's Dan Witz, here in my studio in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. Well, I moved to New York in the late 1970s and to go to art school. I know people romanticize it these days and think it was very cool, but it was kind of chaotic and crazy, and rent was cheap. It was very good to be a young artist back then. I was always a painter, but was in bands for like most of my 20s. My lifestyle was I'd play these crazy concerts with these people throwing bottles at us at night, and then in the afternoon after the sound check, I would go to some museum and study old master painting, which has always been my thing. That's a good one. And it wasn't until I started thinking about that this would be something I wanted to paint. Then I started going to shows and, you know, being right there for 4 or 5 hours, you know, seeing every band, being in the pit, and, you know, really toughing it out. The mosh pit paintings I'm doing now, these large group kind of, you know, crazy, chaotic compositions, what I really respond to are the sort of large Baroque, you know, multi-figure sort of Christian iconography paintings. It usually be like the Romans attacking some village and sacking and raping and pillaging and all that. Chaos is what I'm looking for sure. Which is why I stick with the older bands, Agnostic Front, Vision of Disorder, stuff like that, because I know that they're reliably going to be doing their ultra-violence. They're fucking intense, man. They're insane, and they're also big and dangerous, and, you know, it's for real. They go into like a feral state, you know, because I'll be up against them, and I'll look in their eyes, and they're just not even there. They're cracked open for a second. You leave your body. And that's what I love about going to these things and photographing. I will leave my body for 3 hours, you know, what's better than that? all sort of blends into this massive barbaric yawp, which is really the whole point of this whole, exercise. That's my philosophy right there, yawp. Yeah, I always wonder why New York, there's an anxiety about living here. There's a pressure and a kind of energy to your insecurity that I think is where all that art comes from.
New York City, the boroughs, Long Island, New Jersey, all have their own hardcore traditions that stem directly from A7 and CBGBs.
You're never gonna have Agnostic Front and Madball ever again, and that's why it's important that they're still a band, because they're capturing this time and a place. Hardcore moved out to the burbs just like people who lived in New York City did. We are from Long Island. But that being said, I absolutely consider ourselves a New York hardcore band because I'm now a resident in the city for 10 years.
What's up? We're Incendiary from Greenpoint. How's it going?
Never in a million years would I expect to still be doing this, ever.
I mean, it's something that it always sticks with you. Like whether or not I'm still going to shows or still playing shows, I'm still going to be a hardcore kid. If I wear a suit, I'm still a hardcore kid. Hardcore to me is about throwing rocks at the building, right? And trying to change the world.
Sure.
And then one day I sort of woke up and said, okay, if I really want to change the world, instead of throwing rocks at the building, I need to get inside the building and sort of work from the inside out. Being able to help write laws and draft legislation, I know my resume doesn't say that I can do any of this stuff, but trust me, give me the job, I'm gonna blow your balls off, that hardcore spirit.
The mayor of New York City, Bill de Blasio.
Nausea and all these bands, they're not singing about Dungeons and Dragons, They were singing about Ronald Reagan.
Families are the fabric of our city. All families deserve respect, and that's what we're noting today. That this now makes New York City the largest school district in the nation to take this action. Thank you.
But from writing lyrics, that sort of enabled me to do what I do now. I didn't realize I was trained for it when I wrote For Those I Love I'll Sacrifice or something, but I was. Then there was a whole thing where that soldier got it tattooed on him, and it was I was speechless. These are lyrics that I wrote when I was 16 in my mother's apartment. That this, veteran who just lost his legs in Afghanistan. It was just mind-blowing.
Philosophy of New York hardcore lives on in the DNA of a new generation of artists. They see no problem experimenting on the edges of the subculture and beyond.
Hardcore was all I cared about as a teenager. I'd find the kids that liked Pearl Jam and I'd be like, this shit sucks, dude. Listen to this instead, seriously. And I know you know how to play guitar, so could you write a song like Gorilla Biscuits, please? Cool, we're in a band now. I really feel like hardcore is our generation's folk music in this weird way, and everyone
it has a message too. Bob Dylan had a certain message for what was going on with the world around them, and I think that hardcore has the same thing.
I've met over the years different groups of young people, kids that are coming up that are really inspired by Gorilla Biscuits or these things that, me and my friends did when we were their age, right, or younger. And they pick up the ball and they interpret it for themselves.
I'm a terrible guitar player, I apologize. That's the beauty of hardcore, is you can be a terrible guitarist and you could be a virtuoso within the world of hardcore. I am where I am today because of Walter Schreifels. I sent Walter an email. I said, hey, we're these 18, 19-year-old kids from a town you've never heard of. Would you like to work with us on a record? He got back to us, we've become friends with him, and we're just on the same level, when in reality, he is the guy that essentially set the course for my life. If you look at New York hardcore in 1980 to 1990, It didn't matter if we sounded like the bands that we've always looked up to. It was, more about finding ways to adapt it to 21st century music. And this is how we're gonna do it. I think that's really hardcore in a nutshell. It's the most like anti-rule following society. And I think that's why it's still relevant.
I'll be you and you'll be me. I'll be you and you'll be me. In our secret society.
I love that track. That's Secret Society by Title Fight.
The young kids is the ones who keep it going. They're the ones, up there like bringing it. You know what I'm saying? You gotta have that youthful energy at the shows, so it keeps you young, man.
That's what it's about, Get that kid, get him up here. You get up there. Here, kid, get up there. You can do it. Probably do it better than me, too.
Agnostic Front, Cro-Mags, Crumbsuckers, Kraut, Leeway, Murphy's Law, Nausea, Reagan Youth, Sheer Terror, Sick of It All, Underdog, Warzone, Youth of the Day, Burn, Biohazard, Shelter, Ludacris, YDL, Scarhead, Iceman, Rest in Pieces, Straight Ahead, New York Hoods, Kill Your Idols, Absolution, Major Conflict, 108, Judge, Killing Time, Madball, Marauder, Breakdown, Side by Side, Beastie Boys, Heart Attack, Super Touch, Bold, Crown of Thorns, Maximum Penalty, H2O, and Gorilla Biscuits. And that's only the tip of the iceberg. New York Hardcore.